What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Quarantined with Lavell. Listen, I am excited. I have three amazing young ladies that are going to be in the studio tonight. And listen, I'm honored that they're here because we're celebrating Women's History Month. And these women are definitely making history in what they're doing. But before we bring them on, I just want to tell all of you that I appreciate each one of you for tuning in. If you could do me a favor, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button on YouTube. And then there's a button that says share. Go ahead and click that share button so that we can get the word out about the show. And if you're watching on Facebook, hit that thumbs up button on Facebook as well. Amen. And go ahead and let's get the word out. There's a share button on Facebook as well. If you hit that share button on Facebook, it will send it out to all of your followers as well. We want to make sure that we get the word out because this is a segment that we have coined Finance Thursdays. So every couple of months, we're going to have our guest Lateqa and Olivia on, and they're going to be talking about finances. They work for Mosley Consulting. If you all remember, we had Mr. David Mosley on the show. I believe it was in our first season, and we were talking about finances. These young ladies work for him, and they are awesome. They're amazing. They did our show in January. They're back now in March. They're going to be back next month, back in June, back in August. So we are excited to have them to be partners with us on the show. And for tonight's episode, which is entitled Homeownership, they have a young lady who's a real estate agent that's amazing as well. I got the opportunity to meet her tonight, Jade St. Cyr, and we are honored to have her with us. But listen, please make sure that you hit that share button. Hit that share button because we want to get the word out. And also, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching from the Facebook group page, you're going to have to click this link. It's in the description. Here it is. It just says StreamYard.com/Facebook. When you do that, we'll be able to know who we're talking to. Other than that, y'all may see me every now and then looking over to the computer to see who is commenting. Let me give you an example. My little sister Lynn is watching the show. See how we see who she is? It says your girl Lynn Penn. Right? Has her Facebook picture up there. That way we'll know exactly who we're talking to. If you don't click that button, then it's just going to say Facebook user. Okay, we won't know who you're talking to, and I have to look over here and see who it is. So make sure that you hit that button. Thank you, Lynn, for watching. My uncle, of course, is watching. He says everything's looking good and sounding good. And my auntie Linda is watching as well on YouTube. So we appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. All right, listen, we have a great show on tonight. Let me put this up so you all know that it's live, and don't forget to share it out. I'm going to have that scrolling down there as a reminder for you to share that out. Amen. And of course, my lovely, amazing, phenomenal wife is watching the show as well. LaKenya, thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate her. She helps me out with the show more than anyone knows. And she's one of those people that loves to be behind the scenes. I've had her on the show, had to drag her on, it's like pulling teeth trying to get her on because she loves working in the background. She helps me out with the questions for the guests. She helps me out picking the guests. She prays for me before every single show. So thank God for her. Shout out to my son, Emmanuel, who turned 18 months old last month. So we are just excited. He is very, very busy. So if y'all see a few bags under my eyes, you know why. He is very busy. And I told somebody that, it's like he's always moving. Where did he get this from? And my mother was like, come on now. He's such a loving kid, though. It's just amazing. He woke up smiling this morning. That made my day. All right, y'all. listen, we're going to jump on. Oh, shout out to my mother-in-law as well. Thank God for her watching. We truly appreciate her and everybody. As I get into naming names and get in trouble. So listen, I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. But right now, I'm going to bring these amazing young women on the show. So please help me welcome from Mosley Consulting, Ms. Olivia Johnson. Olivia, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Lavell, and hi, everybody. I'm really glad to be here again. I'm excited to talk about home ownership with everyone today.
Awesome. And you're a partner in, I don't want to say in crime, but you're a partner in blessing. Hallelujah. Because you all are blessing some people. Please, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Lateqa Mack. Lateqa, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Lavell. Hey, everyone. Thank you for having us and tuning in. And you can say crime. What we're doing, it might be criminal to like the mortgage lenders.
Absolutely. I love that. And you all have a special guest that I had the opportunity to meet tonight. An amazing young lady from ReMax Edge. ReMax Edge. Please, ladies and gentlemen, help us welcome Jade St. Sin. Jade, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, awesome. We're excited to have you. And listen, ladies, please be relaxed. You all know, I know Lateqa and Olivia know, very laid back. I've had guests on and their kids ran in the room. It is not that serious. We're just here to get good information and to have some fun. So please be relaxed. Take a breath, let it out. We're going to have fun tonight because you all are experts in what you do. So the knowledge that you have, God is blessing you to give that out to us, and we appreciate each and every one of you. As a matter of fact, let's have a quick word of prayer. Father, we thank you for these amazing young ladies that are on the show to help us on tonight, talking about home ownership. And God, we just ask you to have your way. Free course over this broadcast. We just ask you to have your way tonight. Bless them to give us exactly what you would have them to give us and help us to receive it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, ladies, listen, I'm giving it over to y'all, all right?
Awesome.
So you all go right on ahead. And maybe, you know what, let's do this. Olivia and Lateqa, just briefly tell us a little bit about yourselves. And right after that, Jade, just tell us a little bit about yourself. And then that way we'll get to know everybody. We'll break the ice, and then we'll jump on into home ownership.
All right.
Lateqa, you go ahead.
Okay, nice. So I'm Lateqa Mack, and I'm the financial representative for Mosley Consulting. And I gave like a whole spiel to my background with the 10 siblings and growing up in Flint on the last episode. So everyone, check that out if you didn't catch it. But I got into this business. Basically, I just want to help people. I grew up with not a lot, but we worked with what we had. So I just want to teach everyone to work with what they have, the money that you work for, how to make it work for you.
Amen. Olivia?
All right. And again, I'm Olivia Johnson. I am the marketing brand ambassador for Mosley Consulting. And I started out as well just wanting to help people. I didn't have any knowledge or experience in finance. So once I was able to get some structure and some knowledge behind it, I really wanted to share that with other people so I could help people not go through the things that I went through.
All right. And Jade, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Jade St. Sin. I'm a realtor, a Michigan realtor. I'm with ReMax Edge. I actually was Olivia's realtor. So that's how I got her home. So that's how I met these lovely, amazing women. And same thing. I love helping people, get from, a point where, they're not loving where they're at to really happy. So.
Amen. That is awesome. And I think, honestly, that's a place where everybody wants to be, but many of us don't know how to get there. So we appreciate each one of you for being here on tonight. And right before I give it over to you all, I got a quick question. So originally when Olivia and Lateqa, when you sent me the list of the topics that you all were going to be going over each month, this episode was actually scheduled for another month and you moved it to March. Why are we talking about home ownership in March?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Olivia. You can take this one.
Okay. So we decided to talk about homeownership in March because usually around the time when the weather gets nicer is when people really start wanting to jump into the market. And then this is also like the tax season, so people are getting their refunds. So if this was an opportunity for you to have some extra funds to start your homeownership process, this would be a great time to talk about it.
Nice. All right, ladies, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I couldn't have
You
said
covered
it
that
better.
well. Yeah. Awesome. I didn't know. I know what the list you sent me, and then you all changed it. And I asked why, and I was like, oh, duh, that makes like perfect sense.
Oh, wait, I do have
Awesome.
one thing to add. So,
Absolutely.
Lavell and also a lot of our other clients have recently mentioned, like, we want to buy a home. Like, Lavell goal is to buy a home in the next year, just as well as
Yes.
our other clients. So we felt like, let's do this right now.
All
For them.
right. All right. Awesome. Well, ladies, listen, I am going to just give it over to you all to go however you want to go, and it is in your hands.
All right. Thanks, Lavelle. So we've already kind of done a little introductions of ourselves. So Lavelle, if you can go into our first slide. The next one, please. And I'm gonna leave it to Lateqa. She's gonna start our introduction, and we're gonna go from there.
Yeah, so like everyone mentioned, we're here to talk about home ownership. And when it comes to being a first-time home buyer, it could be very, very stressful, especially when you're not familiar with the home buying process. So Olivia, Jade, and I all decided that we want to break down the key aspects when it comes to deciding to go on that homeowner journey. And the things that we're going to talk about tonight are going to be just financial stability and what that looks like when it comes to your credit score, your down payment, your debt to income ratio, and also the assets that you own and how that can help you get approved for your loan. Later on, Olivia just bought a home during the pandemic. So she's going to go through that story, and she's also going to give a big kudos to Jade St. Sin, who helped her do that. Now, like I said, and then at the very end, we have a segment called Hear It From the Expert, where Jade is going to deep dive into some things that Olivia and I may have missed throughout this presentation. We want also to hear the audience voice and also answer any questions you guys may have. So we're going to wrap up the presentation with the Q&A. And Lavelle, we can hit next slide. Now, I think today was a good time to have this show because earlier the inflation report came out. And inflation, if you guys are not familiar with it, Olivia and I deep dived into it with our first series, what inflation means and what that means for us day to day. But today they came out with a new report for February, and inflation was at 7.9%. That means that gas is skyrocketed. That means that groceries, anything day-to-day living is now, it's a lot. It's going up, and it may continue to go up because we have the Ukraine and Russian war going on. We still have the pandemic that we've been facing for 2 years. And also, Realtor.com just released a report for the housing. And the national median housing price is now listed at $392,000. So that means that the price to buy a home is now up. And a lot of our clients are asking, well, we had goals to buy a home prior to all of these things. Can I still get my home? Am I overpaying for it? Should I wait till the pricing go down? What should I be doing? So I want to talk about the current housing market. I kind of already explained that the national median price has gone up. It hit an all-time high at the end of February. And they're still in an economy like this. We don't know when prices are going to go down. No one has a crystal ball. No one knows. But what we want to talk about is how we can still accomplish that goal of getting that home in a market like this. A lot of you may know that we call this market a seller's market. So if you want to sell your home right now, you're going to make a good penny off of it because the housing price is so high right now. But for people that want to buy a home, we want to make sure that we're going through the right process to get approved for that mortgage and to find the home that's affordable for you. So a couple of things that the audience may want to think about when beginning your journey is your credit score. But not only your credit score, we're also going to talk about the down payment you should have. Then next, we're going to talk about your debt to income ratio, what this means, and why it's so overlooked when you go to apply for that mortgage. And then lastly, we're going to talk about assets and how those can help you get approved for that loan. So I'm going to hand it over to Olivia. She's going to deep dive into the credit score and down payment. You can hit next slide, Lavell.
All right. So thank you, Lateqa. That was a great introduction to what we're going to talk about today. So like she said, I'm going to be talking about the credit score and the down payment. So it's important to really think about how much you're going to have as a down payment and to understand your credit score and to know what it is and to also understand the expectations when speaking to a lender of what you need to have. So for example, let's just start with down payment. So with a down payment, I know that there's been a lot of programs out there and they say, oh, there's no down payment and stuff like that. And then they think, oh, I could just go and buy myself a home. And that's not necessarily true. So we just want to definitely stress that it's important to understand that you do have to have some money when you purchase a home. Because even if you may not have that down payment cost, there is a closing cost, there are moving costs, there are inspection fees, there are appraisal fees, there's so many other different fees that are involved in the process that, you know, just because one section of it you may not have to pay for, there's a much larger section and other areas of the process where you do have to send in payments. There's even earnest money deposits. There's plenty of opportunities to spend money. So never go into the process thinking that you can buy a home with no money. You definitely have to have some money. A good rule of thumb is to have about 25% of the selling price of the home. So for example, if you want a house for $100,000, it's best to have around $25,000 saved when you start your process. And again, that money just can go down for, again, down payments, closing costs, any fees, and as well as, you know, after you do the closing of your home, maybe you have to buy a new furnace or you might want to do some construction in the home, fix some things up cosmetically, or you might have some major repairs that you might want to, you know, get fixed, or you might end up having to fix, you know, unknowingly. So it's best to have a nice little nest egg of money there when you start your process. And then moving into your credit score, is best to know your credit score and understanding where it is that you need to be in order to get a loan through a lender. So there are many different programs that we all hear about. We hear about conventional loans, we hear about FHA, we hear about VA, we hear about rural development. But each of those programs each have their own process and their own acceptance rates of where your credit score needs to be. So for example, you know, your conventional may ask for 620 or 640, but FHA may ask for 580. However, those numbers can still vary just depending on your situation. And it's also best to know that even though the information we're given today is just general information, everybody's process is different and every lender has a different accepting process as well. So this is just good general information. That's a good starting point as well. So I also want to go into talking about FICO scores and Vantage scores. So those are two different programs that lenders may use when going through the approval process for figuring out if you're able to get a loan or not. I personally, when I went through my experience, went through a company that told me they use a Vantage score, and they told me, oh, you can get, you know, almost $200,000 worth of a house. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then I go to another company and they're like, nah, you're just not ready. So because they use a FICO score. So it's definitely great to understand what the two programs offer. And so I put on there a graph for us to all look at. that you may take notes for, or I can also send you this information later on. But each of the programs, the FICO and the Vantage, they calculate different aspects of your credit report differently. So if you have more late payments and on your credit report, it's going to affect you a lot greater in your Vantage score than it would your FICO score. So again, it's great to understand the two programs, how they all work against each other, and when you're using a lender, knowing which program that they use. A place to get your credit score is at annualcreditreport.com. At right now, at the moment, they're allowing you to get your credit report from all three bureaus once a week for free. So take advantage of this while it's still going on. They started it during the pandemic and they're keeping it going. So if you are in the process of looking for your home or any reason that you may need to know what's on your credit report, maybe there's something that has shown up that it shouldn't be there. The time is now to, get those reports, start checking off all those bad things that are on there, and really start working on that. Next slide, Lavell.
Real quick. So now at the site, the annualcreditreport.com, normally the three main places where you check your credit score, you can only do it like once a year for free. Is that correct?
Yes, typically it's once a year. And like I said, because of the pandemic, they have allowed, I think at one point it was once a month, and then they made it once a week. So they're allowing people to really work on their credit because of the pandemic, a lot of stuff got thrown out of whack for a lot of people. So they're allowing us the opportunity to, have a continuous eye on it and keep an eye on the things that might show up, might not show up, and that may have gotten messed up during the pandemic.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please take advantage. My wife and I did it twice last year. We checked our credit scores, and we got the credit. We went to this website, and we actually got the credit reports from all three because we were checking to make sure, because as you all know, I've done a show on this, but we are almost completely 100% out of debt. So we wanted to make sure that nothing was lingering there. So, a lot of people now are using online. So there's a lot of shadiness going on, people trying to hack you and all of this stuff. So please take advantage. It's free. Just go to that website, annualcreditreport.com, and you can get like she said, once a week you can check it. And you can see what's on your credit report, what you owe, what you've paid off, and all of that. So please, please, please take advantage of that.
Yes.
So now we're going to talk about one of the most overlooked aspects when it comes to getting approved for your mortgage. Now, Olivia had mentioned we got a good credit score, good down payment, and a lot of people, they go and they say, okay, I have this great credit score, down payment, and they still get denied. And they're wondering, well, why did I get denied for this? And the most overlooked piece is your debt to income ratio. And what that means is it's a percentage that the lender take, and they calculate your monthly debt obligations, and then they divide that by how much income you're bringing in monthly. And what's included in those monthly debt obligations, people may ask, well, is my grocery bills, is my monthly expenses included in that debt calculation? Well, no. What's included is the things that you owe. So if you have a monthly car payment, if you pay off your credit cards monthly, anything as far as your debt obligation, if you have any future housing association fees, that's included in your new monthly loan payments. That's included in your debt. That's how the lenders calculate this. So it's important to know who you owe. Like Olivia said, pull in that credit report to know what your debt is. And then it's also equally important to know, well, how much money am I bringing in? And they use your gross income, which is not it's your before tax income monthly. A lot of our people say, okay, I did the calculation on my own, and my debt to income ratio is kind of high, I feel like. Well, what's high, you may ask? Now, before 1994, before the automated system came into place, a lot of lenders stated that they wanted to see a 36% debt to income ratio. But now in 2022, we have ASU, which is an automatic system that the lenders use to calculate your debt to income ratio. And typically, they want to see this between 40 and 45%. Now, let's say if you calculated it on your own and you feel that you're above that, or you may be in a little bit of trouble where you may be denied for a mortgage loan. It's important to examine your monthly budget. And when you're looking at your budget, you have three options. You can say, okay, how can I use my income to pay down some of these debt balances that I owe? That way it's decreasing your debt part. Or you can say, well, I'm giving all that I can to my debt. That means I have to raise my income. How can I get a side hustle, get a second job? You know, it's either you're going to decrease your debt or increase your income. The third way to do this is to increase your down payment. And I'm going to let Jade really tackle onto this because there's a lot of ways that you can increase your down payment. But she does have a client that just did this recently. So I'm going to hand it over to Jade and ask her about the gift certificates and what this means for the audience if they need to increase that down payment.
Yeah, so what the ladies had spoke on, there's different programs, conventional, FHA, rural development. And with these, the debt to income ratio will vary. I had a client who she was approved FHA, fell in love with this house, and they were only accepting conventional. And she was fortunate enough where her family, her father was able to give her a good amount of money to put towards the down payment as a gift. And it adjusted her debt to income enough where she was able to switch over to the conventional route. So if you're fortunate enough to get a gift from a relative, that can really help with the down payment. So that's an option for some people.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Jade. So now that we have a good a responsible credit score, what that means for you, a good down payment, and now our debt to income ratio is a little bit below 40 to 45%. We're going to talk about the last piece when it comes to the mortgage approval pie, which is your assets and how that can help you. If we don't have any questions, we're going to go to the next slide and hand it off to Olivia.
All right. So the last thing we're going to talk about, like Lateqa said right now, is the assets. Your assets are items that you own that have some monetary value to it. So, whether that's cash, whether it's, in a safe in your house, at the bank, CDs, investments, pensions, stocks, bonds, any vehicles you may own, cars, boats, homes, land, buildings, anything that has monetary value. Your assets are great because they can help you through the approval process. So if a lender is looking at what you have and they see that you have a lot more assets than debts, they can say, oh, okay, well, they have a lot of monetary value in the things that they have. So for example, if you were to lose your home or to lose your job, you will be less likely to lose your home because you have assets that you can get money for to pay off your home or continue making your payment. So your assets are great to have, and they're definitely something that's needed over your debts. So you want to get to a point where you own with an N more than you owe with an E. Also, another thing to note as well is that if you have a history of not paying, it can prolong your approval process. So you may have something that's, something that you owe and you're like, well, I'm not paying it right now. I've deferred it and I got to get some things together. And that also isn't a good look for lenders. So it's best to have your ducks in a row, make all your payments, and definitely keep those assets higher than the things you owe and the debts that you have. And next slide, Lavell.
All right, actually, we have a question here.
Sure.
Dr. Brown asks, if you give money to a family member as a gift to purchase a home, is it considered taxable income?
I think it depends on the amount. I believe you can gift up to $11,000 without it being taxable. But we'd have to check because, with those tax laws, they change every year. So you'd want to verify with your accountant, but I believe it was 11 grand.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that great question, Dr. Brown. Appreciate that. And if anyone else has any questions, feel free to enter them in, and we will definitely get to them. We may save some of the questions for the end, but if you have one, go ahead and type it in, and I'll have it saved off to the side so we can get back to it.
And that question is a good one because this isn't in our slide deck, but a very important aspect of when you go to buy a home is to assemble a great team. That means have a great realtor, have a great accountant, have, someone that's your realtor who has relationships with other lenders. So you get a great lender. It's important to assemble those people. So when you do have questions like that, you can easily ask the right people who are not who don't have bad intentions. They have your good goals at heart. So now we've got our 3 pieces to the mortgage approval pie together. We got our debt to income ratio down. We got a good credit score, and we have those assets in place. We now have a decision to make. And I get this question all of the time. Which is better, a 15-year or a 30-year mortgage? Now, before I deep dive, I kind of want to give an analogy. So for last Christmas, I went Christmas shopping and I wanted to do matching pajamas with my family. So I went into Walmart and I got a set of pajamas that were all one size fit all. So I took them home and, I put mine on. I'm looking good. I give one to my mother and it doesn't fit her. And everyone's looking like, oh, well, dang, Tika, did you not, think about this? But Walmart told me that one size fit all. And so when it comes to the mortgage approval process, and when you're thinking about a 15-year or a 30-year, one answer does not fit everyone. So it's important to know your goals. It's important to know your opportunity costs. It's important to really know your financial situation. Like Olivia had mentioned earlier, we're just giving kind of general information for people who need to know what these things mean and what they should be thinking about when they make their own decision. Okay, so we can go back to the slide. I just wanted to do that. So when deciding between a 15 and a 30 year, we want to, like I said, think about the opportunity cost. So if you're someone that wants to build equity fast and wants to pay off that mortgage quickly, a 15-year may be best for you. The main differences between a 15 and a 30 is the monthly payments, the interest rates, and then the total amount that you may be paying overall for that home. A big part of why a lot of people do a 30-year is because of that extra cash flow that they get in monthly. So if, like I said, a 15-year, you're going to pay a higher monthly note. But let's say if you want to use that extra to get a 30-year, if you want to use that extra cash flow to reinvest somewhere else, then a 30-year may be best for you. Another reason why a lot of people opt for the 30-year mortgage is for that security purpose. In our last episode, and also when David was on, he talked about Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law means anything that can go wrong, it will go wrong. And when you have a 15-year mortgage, you have to pay that mortgage off in 15 years. Opposed to a 30-year mortgage, you can pay it off in 15 years. It's about having that security and that protection there. Another point I want to add is that I said a 15-year mortgage has to be paid off in 15 years. And of course, if you're a couple months late, then okay, but you have to pay penalties, fees, and fines for that. Now, if you pay a 30-year mortgage off in, let's say, 17 years, there's no fees, there's no penalties or fines for that. And so that protection is really good for a lot of people, but it really depends on your goals. Some have goals to get a property, pay it off, make it into like an investment property where now they rent out that home and they want that extra cash flow and then to go buy another house. So some people just want to pay it off quicker because they have different goals. So it's all about your goals when it comes to this between a 15-year and a 30-year. Ladies, did you have anything to add to that? I think
Yeah, I wouldn't mind telling my story. So when I was 25, I got approved for a loan. I was only able to do the 30-year mortgage. And at that time, I was just, had been renting for a very long time and ready to start building my own equity. So I got a 30-year mortgage. And like Lateqa said, you can pay it off before the 30 years. I'm able to put extra, if I make extra money, I can put a lump sum down. I can put $100 down a month more. It's whatever fits your budget. And it was a great move. Within the 7 years that I've owned my home, I have built over $100,000 in equity. So if I would have been renting for 4 more years to be in the spot to afford a 15-year mortgage, for me, it wouldn't have been worth it. For me, this was the right move. So just, assessing your own financial state so you can make the best move for you.
Yeah, Dr. Brown, she said, I have a 30-year mortgage, but she makes extra payments towards the principal. So,
great.
literally exactly what you all are talking about. Great
And then I
advice.
do have one more question for Jade. So we all know that when you go to refi, so if you have a 30-year mortgage, you can finance that, correct, into a
Mhm.
15-year. But if you have a 15-year mortgage, can you refinance that into a 30-year?
You can. Most lenders will let you refinance, and a lot of lenders will let you do whatever you want. You can do like an 8-year or 12-year. They'll set you up with whatever plan you want to be on.
Great, thank
All
you.
right. So before we move on, I did want to show this again. Lateqa, can you kind of go over these three scenarios real quick? Maybe give some of the pros and cons of each one of the scenarios.
Yes, of course. So if you see the chart, you'll see the loan amount. The very first column is what you were qualified for. And then in the next column, it says, let's say scenario one, you opt in for the 15-year mortgage. It's telling you how often you're going to have to make your payments. So that's monthly. And that's equal across the board, whether it's 15-year, 20-year, 30-year, as you can see on this chart. And then it's breaking down, okay, the interest rate. So I recently mentioned that with a 15-year mortgage, the interest rate, with a 15-year mortgage, the interest rate would be lower, where the 30 year is going to be higher, and then where the 20 year is going to be kind of in between. And so this chart is breaking down, let's say if you want to do the 15-year, what that looks like. If you want to do the 20-year, what that looks like, and then the 30-year, what that looks like. And another thing that you can see on this chart at the bottom is, I said a big difference is the total amount that you're going to pay for that loan overall. So if you wait the whole 30 years, you're going to pay a lot more than if you get that paid off for 15 years. And for the audience who follow Dave Ramsey, this is why he always say a 15-year is better than a 30-year, because you're paying less for that total loan amount.
Yeah, and as according to the chart, it could, and like you said, I know each situation varies, but it could possibly you end up paying more doing the 30-year mortgage, because but like Jade said and Dr. Brown said, when if you're just paying that basic premium there, you end up paying almost double. But if you're making extra payments, then that's going to definitely help you out.
Of course, and the 30-year is more for protection. So when you
Mm-hmm.
get the 30-year, you don't ever want to think, I'm going to take these whole 30 years. It's about using that extra cash flow per month to, do reinvest in other areas and then take that money, pay it off. You want to get it paid off as quickly as possible, but you don't want to constrict yourself to a 15-year when you don't have the income to pay it off in 15 years, because then you're going to get into a problem. It's a whole lot better for protection purposes and security to do the 30-year and then make payments as if it was a 15-year, just for
Nice.
when Murphy Law shows up.
All right. All right. So before we move on to the next slide, have a question here. Sister Patricia Williams is asking, if someone filed bankruptcy, how long should they wait before looking into buying a home?
Typically, it takes 7 years for a bankruptcy to fall off your credit report. So I would say at least 7 years at a minimum. And in that time, if you're able to save at the same time, I would do that. But 7 years for that to come off, and then hopefully you'll be able to save up some money so you can have some money down or for a down payment or closing costs or anything like that you will need for the process.
All right. Anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, so I don't really want to comment. I would work with the lender. If you were in that situation and had any questions, I would reach out to a local lender and have them look into your situation and see if there's anything they can do to speed up that process, because they would be the expert in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that
like you all have been saying, these are just mainly general rules. Everybody's situation is different.
Exactly.
So definitely talk to a professional to get the advice that you need. But what these ladies are saying, they are professionals in their field, but the laws are changing, things are changing. And I know for sure that Lateqa and Olivia, Mr. Mosley, that they are up on the laws. I'm sure you all have to stay on those things. And Jade, I'm sure you have to stay on those things because things are changing and the economy is different now. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. So I'm sure things are shifting and changing, but just make sure that you all check into whatever situation, talk to professionals, give Mosley Consulting a call, talk to these ladies about your personal situation, and give Jade a call at ReMax. Talk to her about these situations before you just jump headlong into something and get blindsided. So Mr. Mosley has a question, but I'm actually going to save his question until the end. Mr. Mosley's questions are always so good. So I'm going to save his question until the end. We appreciate Ms. Mack for watching. Thank you so much. This is very helpful information to me as well. I agree, Ms. Mack, that this is very, very good information. All right, ladies, I am going to get out of the way again. I keep jumping in. Let me get out of the way.
I wanted to add one thing to Trisha's question. Mm-hmm. So she asked about, hey, I filed bankruptcy, and Olivia said, well, typically it takes 7 years. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to add, in between those 7 years, we shouldn't just be sitting there waiting until the 7 years are over. We should be doing those key aspects that we talked about, getting that debt to income ratio down, building up that responsible credit score, even though you have a bankruptcy on there. It's about credit worthiness, and there's other aspects to that. So we want to make sure that, okay, getting those assets. Life happens. We can't change what happened. We had to file for bankruptcy. But now it's about moving forward and focusing on those key aspects that we talked about. Because there's a way to still build up your credit worthiness, even though you file bankruptcy. So I do want to put that out.
An option too, if you have filed bankruptcy and your credit isn't where it needs to be, you can do a land contract. So what that is the owner of the home, they have to own the home free and clear, and they're essentially the lender. So you're giving the homeowner usually a pretty good down payment, like 20%, and then you're paying rent, but it's a rent to own situation. So that can be an option if you filed bankruptcy, because the ball's in the homeowner's court. They might be okay with you filing bankruptcy 4 years ago, and you have a really good, secure job, and everything else is in line. So that can be a route for you to go as well.
Excellent. All righty.
So we're going to go back to the slide presentation, but before I have Lavell switch, so next slide is going to be Olivia deep dive in because I mentioned she bought a home during a pandemic, and most people are like, why would you buy a home during a pandemic? So, but before we deep dive into that, I wanted to, I was supposed to say this at the beginning and I didn't. A lot of people right now, so now that you have your good credit score, you have a good debt to income ratio, and you have those assets in place, you may still be like, well, Tika and Olivia and Jade, it's still a seller's market. When should I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until it crashes, until housing prices go down. Now, I want to, and also a lot of people have a question of, well, but how will I know when this is going to happen? And I want to answer that before we go into Olivia's story. So when it comes to the housing market, if you're looking at the news, and I hate that the news does this, but when you look at the news about the housing market, they tell you that the Treasury report is what you should be looking at. And that's very inaccurate. For those of you who have seen the movie The Big Short, we know that we should be looking at the MBS, which is the mortgage-backed security, which is the bond market. And so when it comes to the bond market, so we have stocks, we have bonds. But when it comes to the bond market, it's directly correlated with interest rates when it comes to the interest rate that you're getting on this mortgage loan. Now, a simple general rule of thumb, if you're looking to follow the market when it comes to the housing interest rates, if you want to follow it, you should be looking at the bond market. And a simple rule of thumb is that, so we're getting all these economic reports from the inflation rate to to gas prices to all these different things. Like things are happening in the economy. So a rule of thumb to know when the interest rates for the mortgage loan are going to rise is that if there's bad news, so like right now we have a pandemic, we have a war, there's a lot of bad things going on. When there's bad news, it's typically good for interest rates when it comes to your mortgage loan. That means it's going to stay low. Now, let's say if things change within the next 6 months or year and things are starting to go up, like things are starting to look better. So we have everyone vaccinated for the pandemic. Things are starting to go down. There's no new variants coming in. The war is over. When good economic data is coming out, that's typically bad for interest rates. So good economic data and reports means that the interest rates will go up. But right now we're in such a economic trying time where there's bad news. So the interest rates will stay typically low. But the way to track that is by going onto the internet and just typing in the bond market and looking at, okay, the bond market is in the red. So, or right now it's in the green because there's bad news. So it's just about tracking it. So, every time you watch the news, if there's bad economic data, the mortgage rates will stay kind of low, typically. If there's good data coming up in the news, typically that means that the interest rates for the mortgage will go up. So I did want to let the audience and everyone else know that that's a simple way and rule of thumb to track the interest rates for the loans.
Nice.
So now that we have that, let's get into the good story of Olivia.
All right. So that is a lovely picture of my house. I will start off by saying that I do love my house. There were times that I didn't know if I was gonna get this house. My whole process was just an emotional roller coaster, mentally draining. One day I felt good about it, the next day I may not. It was just all over the place. So I started my actual home owning journey years and years ago. When I graduated from college, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get out of here, get my first job, and I'm gonna have enough money. I'm gonna just go buy me a house. Like I just thought it was that simple, and it wasn't. And I tried, and they were like, no, you just don't make enough. We can't do it. Okay. So then I was like, all right, I'll just get a better job, make more money. So then I got a better job to make more money, but I also moved across the state to Grand Rapids. Still couldn't afford it in their market, not understanding that the markets where you live are completely different. So you have to prepare for the market that you want to live in and the city that you want to live in, or the state that you want to live in. You have to prepare for those things. And then I was like, well, all right. So I couldn't get it then. And then I came back to Flint, tried it again after I got another job, still couldn't do it. Then I found out there were things on my credit report that I didn't even know were there. So now I got to work to get those things off. So it was a continuous process of me just trying to get to the point where I could finally say, I'm finally ready to buy a house. And I had my opportunity during the pandemic, oddly enough. In between that time for me starting to getting to where I am now, I was able to save money, get my debts paid off, taken care of, and put myself in a position to buy a home. So in that time, I saw many homes all in Flint, in Grand Rapids when I lived there for a while, and I talked to many, many realtors. This past year, I went through 3 different realtors before I met Jade. The first 2, I just didn't really feel like they had my best interest at heart. So I just parted ways with them. And I think that's important to know as well, that you don't have to continue to work with a realtor if you don't like the service that they're providing for you, because they're a very important part of the process. They're the ones that you have to depend on to make sure that the process is getting done right in a timely manner, that you're getting the information you need, and um, as well as just helping you out in general with the process. They're the experts. They have the expertise and the knowledge to help you. And if you don't feel like you can trust your realtor, it's okay to say, you know what, I don't think this is going to work out, and find somebody else who will. And I had to do that. And I'm glad I did, because if I wouldn't have, we all heard the horror stories about how houses were just flying off the shelves. And they really were. There were situations where I would go and I put in to look at a house, and before I could even go, people were buying houses sight unseen, which basically means that they're like, I want this house, don't really care what condition it's in, I want to buy it. And they will, and people were taking it, people were spending 10, 15, $20,000 over the price just to make sure they can get a house. It was completely insane. So, another reason it was a good time for me as well is because the interest rates were really low at the time. I actually ended up getting a conventional mortgage, and I have it for 15 years, and my interest rate is 2.75%, which is a great rate. A lot of people's rates aren't even as low as that, but because we were in the midst of a pandemic, I was able to get it at a much lower rate. So the rate was great. And so, yeah, so the rates were great for me. um, so like I said, not only was I able to meet Jade and we were going through the process, I met different lending companies as well, and credit unions trying to get mortgages. And some would say yes, some would say no, some would say, oh, contingent upon this, contingent upon that. Some use FICO scores, some use Vantage scores. So I had a run in the middle of a little bit of everything that I kind of ran into in my process. And I had my inspections done, and that was a interesting process, and ended up being a complex one later on, because I ended up having water damage in my house. So then it was like, well, did he miss it or what? Like, what was happening? So definitely get your inspections, that's for sure. And the appraisal was a process as well. I had to get it appraised, and then they came back that I had to get stuff repaired before we can move forward. And then they took their time, dragging their feet to come back out there, because everybody was getting appraisals because everybody's buying a house. So it was just a very, very, very chaotic situation. And again, with the lenders, I actually had a lending company tell me, yeah, we can get you a mortgage. And, I'm looking for houses, tell them I want this. We start the process after we found this house. And then in the middle of, well, not really in the middle, but the very beginning, before we could even get started, they told me, no, we're not able to approve you anymore. And I'm like, what do you mean? So having that disappointment and then scrambling to find a whole new lending company who will say yes was stressful enough in itself. So I went back and forth all over the place. And, finally got to closing day. At this point, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I just want to get my keys. I just want to move in. I don't care anymore. I didn't really feel like I was able to enjoy it because of so much that I had to do to get to it, but now, even though, I went through all of that stuff, I truly, truly, truly do love my house. I love in going through it in the moment, I did not love it at all. It was completely, draining on you. But I'm glad I went through it because I'm able to sit here and tell you all about my story and the things that I went through. And, hopefully you'll be able to take some of what I went through and you don't have to go through it either with the information that we've given today. As well, like I said, out of it, I got to meet Jade, and Jade is now my friend, and we go out on lunch dates and everything, and it's great. And now I get to work with her too at work. So I absolutely love Jade. I love everything that she did for me to get me to my house. It's so important that you have a great relationship with your realtor because the information she gave me and the help that she gave me along this process just made it that much better. If I didn't have Jade there, I probably would have quit and would have gave up on this house, to be completely honest. But having Jade in my corner telling me it's going to be okay, it's going to work itself out, we're going to get it done, was, one of the reasons I kept on and I stuck with it. So it was a lot, but it was a great experience overall. Stressful, but a great one, a great learning lesson.
It's funny you said that. So, and I'm glad you said that because a lot of times when you think of buying a house, all you see is the good in your mind. It's like, oh, we're going to look for houses. We're going to talk to an agent. We're going to but there are some things to go through. And I'll say this, my wife and I, when people think about having kids for the first time, it's just such a great thing. And we went through a terrible situation. We actually did a whole episode. Go back and watch the episode of what we went through with her birthing our child. It just, in the middle of the pandemic, it just was a horrible situation. But everything that we went through, all of the horrible things we went through, all of the pain that she experienced and went through, when Emmanuel came into this world and she held him for the first time, she completely forgot about all of that. None of that meant anything to her because she finally had the promise. Mm-hmm. And if you're looking for that house, yes, you are going to go through some trials and tribulations. You're going to go through some birthing pains. Mm-hmm. But when you finally get your keys and you go into that house, this is something that you can say, this is mine.
Yes, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even on my closing day, it was pouring rain that day. And I didn't even care. I was just like, I'm just so happy it's over. I get to have my keys. When I leave here, I'm going to walk into my house. And just being able to say that, I didn't care about anything else after that, So that's very, very true.
Well, the rain helped your lawn. And it looks beautiful. So
yes. So I'm excited. I got so many things I'm going to do this year. As far as changes to my house, moving in, I had to, a lot of unexpected expenses in the beginning. And like we said, it's important that you have that nest egg of money sitting there for instances like that. I moved in and I ended up having to have all my electrical rewired in the house. So that was a very big expense that I wasn't planning on spending. And then I also found out the previous owners were people who like to do things by themselves. So a lot of the work that has been done in the house has been done by an owner and not a professional. So there's a lot of things that I'm going to be fixing along the way as well, to make sure it's good for the next person, when I decide to leave. But yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot more. They always tell you that buying a house is not an easy thing. And I feel like I knew that, but I also felt like it's a lot harder than I anticipated it to be. Like I knew it would be hard, but not necessarily this hard. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't change it for anything. I completely love being a homeowner. even when things don't go right. It still is great to be able to say that I own this home and I am in charge of what happens here. So that in
Yeah,
itself is a great feeling.
absolutely. And going back to the child analogy, my mother, my mother-in-law, and my wife were all laughing at me because when Emmanuel was just a couple of months old, I would be holding him, and I was like, when is he gonna do something? He just lays there. Like, we paid a lot of money for him. When is he gonna actually do something? And now he will not stop running around. He will not stop climbing on things. And I'm like, oh my God. And my mother-in-law was like, now, what were you saying about him not, not doing nothing? So when you get a house, it's yours. You're happy now. But now you have to you went through the birthing pains. Now you have to go through the growing pains. You have to pay for the electrical. Now you have to shovel the snow, cut the lawn, so there are things that go along with that. But it's still a beautiful, beautiful thing to say, this is mine. This is something that I have.
Yeah. And, one thing too, after I got there, I was just so into the idea of making it the way I wanted it. And I'm like, oh, I have to get this done. I have to do that. I have to do that. And everyone's like, Olivia, just calm down. You're going to live in this house forever. Well, not forever, but you live here. Enjoy it. And it took me a few months being there to really understand what that meant, because it was just like, I couldn't enjoy it because I'm like, ugh, I don't like that the walls are this color, and I don't like that it looks like this, and I hate that the floors look like this, and I want all of it to change now. And I had to really stop myself and really just learn to enjoy it. So now I'm able to sit in my house and sit on my couch and watch TV and look out the window and enjoy the nature outside and really enjoy not just the house, but the environment that I'm building for myself too. And that's just as equally important, to really enjoy your investment, and to understand that a house is an investment, and it's okay to want to, put things into it to bring it up to date, but also enjoy it while you have it. Don't spend so much time just investing and fixing it when you live there. If it's an investment property, of course, that's a little different. But when it's your home, you should be able to say, I had some great memories in that home, instead of thinking about all the headaches of updating and upgrading, So being able to really enjoy my house is a lesson that I'm really learning, and trying to take advantage of right now.
Amen. And Dr. Brown says another thing to keep in mind is that in your eagerness to buy and own a home, don't just settle for any home. Shop around. Don't just settle. First thing you see, you buy. No, you shop around. It's okay.
Yes, and I almost got caught in that trap too myself. I was looking at houses, and the first realtor I had, every house we went into, oh, this would be perfect for you. This would be great. And I'm like, yeah, it would be. But I had to really like sit down and think to myself, like, is this really where I want to be? And are these the things that I really want in a house? And where do I see myself in the future? And again, too, just thinking about the house itself. What is the resale value looking like in the neighborhood? Are the value of the homes going up? Are they going down? If I plan to sell it, am I going to get my return on investment when I'm ready to leave? So you have to think about many, many, many different things. And for me too, I have a dog, so I need a yard. And then how big of a yard? And who's going to mow the lawn? Because I don't do yard work. So having to make sure that I prepare for that extra cost of yard work, because I'm not going to do it, and that's something you have to think about, or are you going to just take that time and be like, well, I'm just invest in a lawnmower and do it myself? Or are you going to have someone do it for you? So, you really have to do everything as a homeowner. There's no one to, it's a pro and a con. There's no one to really talk about what you can and cannot do. It's literally all up to you.
And another thing I want to add to Dr. Brown's comment is that I really was hoping, so while we were preparing for the show and Olivia was telling me the story about her own home ownership process and how Jade was a big blessing to her, she would get like sparkles in her eyes, and she would just like talk about how great Jade was. And I tease her all the time and say that she has a girl crush. But at the end of the day, it's really important to get a realtor that you're literally in love with. You know, it was times that I felt like the third wheel, like I should have had Jade as my realtor too. You know,
Right.
it's really important. It's very important to have a team that just cares, because they're not going to let you just spend your money wildly, because they're not thinking about that commission. They're thinking about that home that you want. And so
Buying a home is most people's biggest purchase. So you really want to trust everyone that you're working with. You know, you don't want to have doubts in the back of your mind, like, oh, what's my realtor's intentions? Do they just want a bigger pay, or are they ready to be done with me and they just say, oh, this is the perfect one because, you know, they want to close in 30 days. But being able to build that trust, and you know, and I always try to do like consultations to figure out what my clients are wanting. And it might take a little bit. Like, you know, we usually have to see a few houses before I really see what you really want, because sometimes on paper people have a long list, and then when we get into the homes, you really get a feel for what's the most important, what can we not live without. And I think you just need a team that, you know, that's their goals too. So
Yeah, for sure. It made the process that much better. You know, having Jade there, she gave me information I never knew in the beginning. And I'm like, what? I had no clue you could do that. Or you could, you know, so initially, you know, you hear like you can put down a $500 earnest money deposit. And Jade's like, no, like you can do as much as you want if you want to have a strong offer. And I'm like, what? Didn't even know that was an option. I thought it was just a standard that everybody did. So she definitely makes sure that when she's working with you, she made sure that she was gonna make you be as appealing as possible to get that bid. So, you know, for that, I always tell her I appreciated her so much, you know, during the process, you know, and making those late night calls, trying to get stuff figured out. And you know, we're trying to figure out why the sellers are signing stuff in a timely manner. We're trying to get stuff done, you know, and Jay was always there with me, you know, fighting to the very end. So, you know, I always appreciate her.
yeah. I think too, that's another reason why this process can be so stressful. Like Olivia might have had all her ducks in a row, but it doesn't mean the other people we're working with do. So you're relying on a lot of other people, and that can be really hard. It can, you know, that's when we have the most anxiety, when things are out of our control. So I think that's a big factor. So at least, you know, having a realtor, having a lender, those are within your control. So those are people you feel like, okay, I have somebody in my corner looking out for me, explaining, you know, going into detail into what we're actually dealing with, because this is a new environment. You know, most people only buy a house, you know, a handful of times. So you want someone that's going to really guide you and you can trust, and breaks everything down for you. So it's really important.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So, does anyone have any questions or want to get any more information from Olivia before we hand it over to Ask the Expert, which is Jay's segment?
Yes, there are a few questions here, but I'm going to save them to the till we get to the question portion at the end. So I'll just hold off on some of these questions here.
Perfect. And you can hit next slide, Lavell. Hand it off to Jade.
Thank you. So yeah, we touched on this a little bit. So when you're starting the home buying process, working with the lender, there's going to be different programs that the lenders can approve you for. FHA, conventional, if you're a vet, VA, USDA, that's the rural development. With VA and RD, you're able to put zero down. So that can be really appealing, but there are some specific requirements. Like with VA, you need to be a veteran. The rural development is only available in certain agricultural locations. So you couldn't utilize this if you were, looking to buy a home in the city. Investment properties, all of these items have different down payments, debt to income ratios, your credit is going to affect these. Another reason why this is really important to do this to get pre-approved before you start looking for a home is because depending on the home, they'll take different financing types. So let's say I was approved and it was FHA, and I started looking for a home and it was only accepting conventional or cash, but I was FHA. I wouldn't be able to buy that home. So I got, my hopes up, wasted a lot of time looking. So you want to know exactly what options you have before you start actually searching for a home, just to prevent disappointment and just, be prepared. Talking about down payments, concessions are something that we can utilize. So the concessions are we are asking as the buyers to have the sellers pay part of your closing costs. And depending on what program you have, it will affect how much money we can ask the sellers to pay for. So FHA in the rural development up to 6%, VA is max at 4%. Conventional is based on your down payment. So if you're putting less than 10%, it would be 3%, 10 to 25, 6%. And if you're putting more than 25% down, we could ask up to 9%. So all of these are just really important factors that we need to have in advance before we go look at a home and want to put an offer in. Something else to consider is the inspection fees, appraisal fees. These are, I always recommend to my clients to get an inspection done. You need to know what's going on with the home. It's your biggest purchase. It's worth the $300 to $400 to have that knowledge. And we can use that as a negotiation tool moving forward. So let's say we put in an offer at $100,000 and there were a lot of items that we're going to have to take care of. I can go back and say, okay, here's the report, this, and this. We're going to go down 10 grand. So that gives us ammunition to, get you in the best spot possible. Earnest money deposit. So that Olivia touched on this. The earnest money deposit is a good faith deposit saying, you're not walking away, how serious you are about this, how, that you want to move forward. This is money that you get back it'll go to your closing costs. As long as, so if you walked away because of a contingency, let's say the home inspection or the home didn't appraise, you'll still get that earnest money back. But if you were, it was a day before closing and Olivia's dad came and looked at the house and he was like, no, I don't like this house. I don't want you to buy it. And you decided, oh no, you know what, Jade, I'm going to walk away. The seller will keep that money. So it's, it's a money saying you're not going to back out for just no reason at all. And then another point to touch on. So once we are under contract, even really before, like if we're in the process of looking for a home and you're pre-approved and we're moving, you want to be conservative with your spending. You don't want to be opening any new credit lines. You don't want to be racking up your bill. You don't want to be buying all new furniture for the house. You need to wait because they're monitoring your spending very closely during that time. So yeah, that's just kind of a quick rundown. I know that was a lot of information and there's a ton to talk on. So I think we're just going to open it up to questions or if you guys had anything, ladies, that you'd like to add.
Nope. I think I'm ready for the questions.
I will say that they are very, very strict about that spending. I think there was a point where I had, and not even just your spending, but about your income as well. So if they can't figure out what this is that, you got like $5,000, they're like, what is this? Where did it come from? They want to know exactly what's coming in and what's coming out. So they're very, very strict about that. I ended up getting like a refund or something like that. And they were like, what is this? And I'm like, just wait a minute. It's legit. Calm down. So you do have to be very on top of what's coming in as well as what's going out.
Yes.
Oh, one thing I did want to add, because we are on the financial side of things. Now, a cash reserve, which is kind of like the savings that you have after you pay all the costs associated with your home. Now, a lot of mortgage lenders does not require you to have cash reserves, but as a financial coach, we always advise our clients to have at least some, like, so if your monthly payment is $1,000, at least have like 2 monthly payments saved away, because we never know if your job will, go away with the COVID pandemic, if they'll shut down, or if you get laid off. So we want to make sure that we have some cash reserves or some savings, so to speak, to make those monthly payments, just in case life happens.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. Let's see here. Questions. All right. So right before I jump into the questions, I have a clip that I want to play. It's about 1.5 minutes. My wife sent it to me, but I didn't know. We haven't researched it. So I'm going to play this little clip. I'm sure you all will know, and you all can give us a little bit of advice on this. Let me pull it up here. All righty.
It's the Michigan First-Time Homebuyer Savings Act. That's what it's called. It basically allows you to go through your employer and set up a savings plan like you would a 401k. And the big thing here is you can actually save this money pre-tax, and it can be used for your down payments or maybe your closing costs on your new house. This is only for first-time homebuyers for a single-family house. The goal here is to promote home ownership. And one of the great things about it, you're not the only one who can contribute to the fund.
You can get gifts from, let's say, your dad wants to contribute or your brother wants to contribute. And this is a great utilization for, let's say, birthdays or any kind of special event where somebody might get you something. They can contribute to your first-time homebuyer fund. So again, much like a 401k.
Yeah, this is not a very common program. So Hall says we're pretty lucky to have it in Michigan. Again, the ink is still drying on this. It was just signed. Now, from a mortgage perspective, it's really good news. The more folks in the market, the more home values actually go up. But Huel, it's pretty interesting to see this, because this is the hardest thing for first-time home buyers is trying to get the money to do all the closing costs and put money down. So it's a good thing.
That down payment is hard for a lot of people. So how can people sign up?
Well, like we say, this is new. This legislation just went into effect as of the last 10 days. So Hall says talk to your employer, as they're going to be the ones that you'll sign up with, like your 401k. It's coming soon to an HR office near you.
Righty. So, is this something that you all have heard about, or no? Yes. It seems like it's pretty new. Is it legit?
Yep.
Because we got excited when so it's like, oh, wow.
Yep. So it's new. It's legit. The governor recently just passed it. There's still a lot of questions in the air for everyone. I don't think it's been implemented yet. That's the problem. So there's still the ink still drying, like he said. But yeah, it's basically you pay in, and I believe it's a match. So like, let's say you put in $3,000, you can match it, so you could get $6,000 to your down payment. And also, I was reading that. So like, let's say you sold your home and you've been living in an apartment for, I believe it was 3 years, and you wanted to buy a home again. If you haven't owned a home for 3 years, you can utilize this. So it's not technically just first-time home buyers. So there are some caveats that people might be able to tap into too. But like I said, there's a lot of gray. It's brand new, so we're still trying to figure out all the rules and everything behind it still.
All right. Well, I'm going to make sure that all of your information is up at the end of the program. So as you all learn more and we want to learn more, we can reach out to you all and get that information. Does that sound like a deal?
Yeah, it sounds like a great program. So I'm really excited about it. So.
All right. All right, listen, we're going to go into a couple questions, and I'm going to let you ladies go. Our first question is from Mr. Mosley. He says, Jade, what advice would you give to help people get prepared and what should they be leery of during inspections?
So getting prepared, I would just, like we talked about, making sure that all your budget items, I really like for my people to work with the lender and say, okay, I want to stay within $1,200 a month for my house payment. I want to know, what do I need to have for my down payment in advance, so you're not blindsided by it, because a lot of times lenders will approve you for way more than what you really want to spend. So you should already have a plan, like, okay, I might be approved for $300,000, but the house that I want to have the house payment for, what's in my real budget, is more 200,000. So doing that in advance, because we're going to get out, we're going to start looking at houses, and you're going to fall in love with a $300,000 house. And then we find out, oh, I can afford it, but I really shouldn't. So I just like all this already planned out so we can stick to the goals. In regards to leery about during the inspections, it's really tough. So when a seller sells a home, they have to fill out a seller's disclosure, and they need to be as truthful as possible. So it asks for the roof's age, the furnace age, but if the seller doesn't know, they can put unknown. So we're really not going to know some of this information until we get that home inspection, and then we can dive in. And you need a really good home inspector who does, their due diligence, that is thorough, so we can really evaluate and say, okay, the roof is 25 years old. We're going to have to take care of that. The furnace is this old. You need to be educated on all these things so you can decide what's the best, course of action.
All right. Great advice. If anyone else has any questions, please go ahead and type those in. I only got 2 more questions, y'all. So hurry up, type the questions in. If you have any questions, please ask those now. My mother-in-law asks this question: what programs do they have available for first-time homeowners, and what are your thoughts on refinancing your home?
So it's going to just depend for the first-time homeowners. That program that the governor just passed, that's going to be a really strong option for people. And different lenders have different, it just depends on what you want. If you're looking for a really low interest rate, if you're looking for a low down payment amount, because like I said, the rural development, maybe if you were looking in the suburbs and you wanted to put 0 down, that could be a great program for you. So there's lots of options, and you would just want to talk to a lender to figure that side out. The thoughts on refinancing, it depends on when you bought your home, because I know around the time Olivia bought her home, I refinanced because the interest rates were so low. So if you've been paying on your home for a while, and if you're paying more than 3% interest, you probably want to look into refinancing, because you'll be able to get a decent amount. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I would like to add to that too, Lavell.
Yes.
For first-time home owners, there were a couple programs that were out as well when I was looking. However, I had too much money in my savings to qualify for them. So understand that even though I am a first-time home owner, sometimes the programs are geared towards how much you have in the bank already. And so in that instance, for me, I didn't qualify, even though I still was a first-time home buyer. So sometimes the programs have a lot of stipulations, and you have to fit in all the boxes in order to still qualify. So again, it's great to work with your lender and have them, talk with you as well as your realtor to have a better understanding of what those programs are asking for and if you fit the qualifications to do so.
All right. So, and another thing I'm glad of, when you ask your question, ladies and gentlemen, someone else may be wondering the same thing, so it's going to help everybody. So my sis Lynn said that was one of her questions. So thank you all for answering that.
Something.
All right, this next. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Could I just add one thing? So sometimes too, lenders will have their own program. So like, let's say I work for Icon Mortgage. They do a down payment assistant program. And if you qualify for it, they'll match what you're going to put down. The problem is sometimes those interest rates are higher. So there's lots of options out there. You really just have to explore and find out what's best for you. So.
All right. This next question comes from my mother, and she's a typer, so it's kind of long, but I'm gonna go ahead and read it here. So she says, and I'm gonna read it off of Facebook because it kind of cut it off on here a little bit. What are your thoughts on retired seniors purchasing a home? I have excellent credit. My credit scores are in the low 800s. I have absolutely no debt. I've been in my current home for about 40 years, but unfortunately the neighborhood is not what it used to be, and I really want to move. But I'm very leery about having a mortgage at my age. In your experience, do you see many seniors buying a new home, and do lenders give them the option of 15 or 30 year mortgage, or do they have to get the 15-year mortgage because of their age?
You guys want me to take this one? So, if you're downsizing, this is the perfect time to downsize. That's, a lot of sellers are making really good profits on their home, and you can roll that into, a smaller home. I have a lot of seniors that want to move from a large home to like a ranch style, one level living. So it's really common. And then and you could get a 30-year mortgage if you wanted to. It just depends on, like Tika said, how much you want for your down payment, the situation that you're in specifically, what will work for you. So, and a lot of times I have people wanting to move into like a condo, so they take care of everything. The grass is taken care of, the snow's plowed, the exterior of the home is all taken care of. So that's another really common route that I have clients go.
All right. Sounds good. All right. That is all the questions I have. A lot of people are saying thank you so much. Very helpful information. So we definitely appreciate you, ladies. I'm going to give about 60 more seconds if anybody has another question they want to answer. And while we're waiting, I want to put your information up. Let me put this scroller up here so everyone can see Mosley Consulting LLC.com and JadeSaintCin.com. And also your information. So you can contact Lateqa at lmac@mosleyconsultingllc.net if you need to email her. You can email Olivia at ojohnson@mosleyconsultingllc.net. And you can email Jade at jadesaintcin@ReMax.net. And of course, you can always go to the websites, mosleyconsultingllc.com and jadesaintcin.com to get any further information. I have these websites in the descriptions on Facebook and YouTube. So that information is already there. So you can reach them directly through the websites, or you can email them as well. All right, Mr. Mosley, he said, these queens rocked. Great show, Lavell. And you really, really did. So thank you all so much. All right, got a quick question here from my buddy, my coworker and friend. He says, what are the pros and cons of buying a house versus a townhouse versus a condo? If you all can hit that real quick, and I'm going to let you all go, but that's a great question.
Yeah, so I would say the biggest cons with, owning a condo is the association can have their own rules and regulations. So they can say, if you had a large dog, they say you can only have one animal below 25 pounds. So you really want to check the condo association's rules, because you're going to have to abide by whatever that says. And then the negative, I guess, of the homeownership is you don't have anybody cutting the grass for you. You don't have that maintenance that's already taken care of with the condo. But also, you have more freedom. You can do what you want with your home if you own your own home. And with the condo, you're going to have to live within the rules of the condo association.
All right. Yeah, Jeffrey. So if you have a home and you want to blast your surround sound, you can do that. You may not be able to do that at a townhouse or a condo, but you can blast your surround sound watching your Marvel movies or DC. I'm sorry, Jeffrey is a DC fan. Movies there. So thank you, brother. Great question. Mama Betty says, awesome show. Sister Williams said, thank you all. Great show. Hannah Justin said, wow, thanks so much for all of this information. So listen, ladies, you all are very, very much appreciated. Thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to let you all have a few last words, starting with you, Lateqa, going to you, Olivia, and we'll let Jade have the final word here, and then we're going to let you all go.
Perfect. Thank you, Lavell. So as always, I like to finish up with thanking the team members that we have behind us, because this isn't just us. It's just not me, Olivia, and Jade. We have lenders on our team. We have other people on the team as far as research goes and everything else. So I always like to close the show with thanking them and thanking the audience and Lavell. And I can hand it off to Olivia. That's all my last words. And I am accepting new clients. If you need a little bit of help with decreasing that debt to income ratio, or even finding out ways to increase that down payment. Also,
email her, Mack at Mosley Consulting LLC.net.
And then I'll let Olivia talk about our next show, what we're going to talk about.
Oh, yes.
All right. I really am glad that we were able to give some great information for everybody. If you have any more questions for me about my journey, since I have recently been through it, I'd be more than happy to talk with you. Of course, Jade is going to be here as well. Her information is out there. I'm also accepting clients, and our next show is going to be in April. We are looking at April 21st, and we're doing the part 2 to the Wise Money Moves, and we're going to be talking about side hustles. So definitely tune in April 21st so we can talk about that.
Awesome. And you can email Olivia at ojohnson@mosleyconsultingllc.net.
Yes, that's correct.
I just wanted to thank these lovely ladies for having me on the show. And Lavell, thank you so much. This has been such an amazing experience. Been wonderful. If anybody has any home buying questions, selling questions, I'm more than happy to answer all of them. You can email me, jadesaintsin@remax.net. And yeah, get going. If you have, you want to start your home search, if you have questions about selling, I'd love to set up a consultation. So
awesome. Ladies, thank you all so much. I truly appreciate you. And I say God bless you. And we're looking forward. Jade, you have a standing open invitation to come back whenever you want to come.
Thank you.
Olivia and Lateqa are going to be coming back frequently throughout the rest of this year. So again, thank you all so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Listen, you all heard from some amazing women here. Lateqa Mack. You can email her at lmack@mosleyconsultingllc.net. Olivia Johnson, you can email her at ojohnson@mosleyconsultingllc.net. And Jade Saint Sin, you can email her at jadesaintsin@remax.net. And of course, visit the websites. I have the websites in the description. mosleyconsultingllc.com. Make sure that you check that website out and go to jadesaintsin.com as well, and you can get some more information there. I do want to give a shout out to Mr. Mosley himself of Mosley Consulting LLC. He is an amazing person who has blessed us tremendously, not only with his questions, but go back and watch the episode that he was on where he took us through some amazing tips on how to get out of debt. And we definitely want to have him back on the show. And he's another person that definitely has a open invitation to come back whenever he so chooses. All right, listen, if you would like to be a blessing to Kneel Down Productions, as always, you can give in these ways here. You can go to kneeldownproductions.com. If you go to kneeldownproductions.com, right there at the bottom, go to the donate tab, and it'll take you directly to our PayPal link there, and you can give in that way. But if you go to PayPal, you can either type in at Kneel Down Productions, or it may ask you for an email address, which is simply kneeldownproductions1@gmail.com. kneeldownproductions1@gmail.com. And then also you can give through Cash App. Our Cash App handle is simply $Kneel Down Pro. $Kneel Down Pro. We truly appreciate any gifts that you give, and we thank God for each one of you. Listen, next week, we're continuing our Women's History Month celebration as we honor these amazing women. And we have a young lady who wrote a book. Her name is Jade Rahman, and she wrote a book. Get this. It's entitled Khalil Makes Sense of Credit. Khalil makes sense of credit. So get this. Khalil is her son. So she has been teaching her son about finances. She is a tax preparer, and so she has a great knowledge of finance. So she wrote a book, a children's book about finances. So I am very excited to have her on the show. One of the things that my wife and I have talked about frequently is that we want to make sure Emmanuel has a chance financially when he gets of age. It is very important for us to teach our children at a young age about finances. And we're going to have her on the show talking about her book, how you can get that book and read that book to your children so that they will have a knowledge of finance when they get older. All right. Oh, my buddy Ralph, one of my closest friends, is watching. He said, nice show, Lavell. I'm going to buy me a house next week. Well, Ralph, if you buy a house, make sure you contact Jade at JadeSaintSin.com. Go to her website if you're going to get a house. But no, I appreciate Ralph Thomas for watching. Thank you, my brother. I truly appreciate you. Listen, everybody, we're going to let you go at this time. So make sure that you tune in on next week for Jade Rahman talking about her book, Khalil Makes Sense of Credit. And the sense is CENTS. See what she did there. Yeah. So we're excited about having her on the show next Thursday. And again, I appreciate each one of you. You all have some great questions. I love when you all ask questions and interact. It makes the show fun and it keeps us on our toes. So thank you all so much. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell notification. That way you will be able to know whenever we go live. And a little notification will pop up saying, hey, Quarantine with Lavell is coming on at this time, so you can view. And if you miss it, always go back. Again, share this out on Facebook. This wasn't a one-time thing. Share it out. We want the word to get out. It's there. It's on Facebook. It's on YouTube. You can send that link to other people. And again, we truly appreciate you. Thank God for you. And until next week, tune in for the show as we bring on Jade Rahman talking about her new book, her new children's book, Khalil Makes Sense of Credit. Tune in, stay tuned, and we'll see you on the show.